I play word games.
That's how I play it.
I feel like you're juggling on 8-bit animation or 16-bit. Remember that? You're not.
It does, it's a game.
Oh, yeah. You don't even, I don't.
I-
8-bit.
Mine is-
16-bit.
Oh, no, I started playing.
Oh, because it used all of that. I just stare.
What did
Once it was the word.
I?
Oh,
Why?
I got it on the first try.
City of Troy, yes. I'm having problems. My phone seems so slow the way after. I don't know. Say that. It's been slow. It's really driving me crazy. So I tried resetting the phone a few times.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Committee of the Troy City Council. It is May 23rd. We're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
To the republic, which is stand, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Keel.
Present.
Councilmember Buzz.
Here.
Councilmember McLaren. Councilmember Vera.
Present.
Councilmember Soriento.
Here.
Councilmember Casey.
Present.
And the council president Steele is also present. So the entire council in attendance tonight. Our agenda is healthy with ordinances and resolutions. But before we get into that, I'd like to open it up for the public forum. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the agenda, this is your opportunity to address the council. Anyone wishing to speak? And for the third time, anyone wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. This evening, we have asked the controller to come forward, please.
Here. Oh, hold on, there's more. Hold on, there's more. Wow. You want
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carmela here. I wanted to kick this off only because there's just a number of things that we want to explain before we go into the fourth quarter. As you know, to kind of draw a picture here, the prior comptroller gave his notice 3 weeks before he took office, and while the comptroller and I had a very frank conversation, because obviously to find a new comptroller within 3 weeks, I knew without even being sworn in that it would be near to impossible. This is the CEO of over $120 million budget. And so saying that, you know, I knew that would be a tough task, and we had the prior administration post the position, anticipating obviously that the prior comptroller gave his notice. So fast forward, about a week before taking office, I looked the prior comptroller in the eye and said, listen, you know, we don't have a new comptroller coming on. What does the comptroller do from January, February, March, April? And the prior comptroller said, pretty much close the books for 2023. Recognizing that and knowing as council president for 8 years, there's a lot of knowledge there, a lot of knowledge that the comptroller has that potentially might, not have been in various budget items, knowing that the fourth quarter, the numbers come in January, February, March. You don't have those numbers in December. So the taxes, they're not even, rectified until, say, February, the final, the prior 3 quarters. So saying that, recognizing that, I said, okay, how can we meet deadlines, close those books at the same time, bring a new comptroller on board? And obviously, the new comptroller really needs to focus on the 2024 budget. And we also know that comptrollers and accountants have their ways of doing things. And, knowing Andy, the prior comptroller, had his way of doing things. So the prior comptroller said, here's what I would do. I would hire a third party, and we talked about the third party. We were fortunate, Bonadillo being our accounting firm, the third party being ProNexus, knowing a little bit about our books, affiliated with Bonadillo, but not a part of Bonadillo, because then a conflict would arise. So fast forward, immediately I take office January 1st. We go on the hunt for a comptroller. We end up getting resumes. Very, very fortunate to land person next to me who has done just an incredible job and working 60, 70 hours a week. And you will find out why. So also, as you know, I issued an emergency declaration, which I thank the council for approving ProNexus. And Matt from ProNexus is on with us. And ProNexus essentially was tasked with closing those 2023 numbers, the books, etc. So fast forward, and I'll hand it off to Matt in a couple minutes, but you have a quarterly report in front of you. What you are going to see, putting on my council president hat, when Dylan and Matt from ProNexus presented this fourth quarter report, I said, wait a minute, it's not totally complete. And you will see at the end that general fund is not fully complete. You're going to hear why. Additionally, we filed what used to be called the AUD, the annual state financial comptroller mandated report for municipalities across the state, saying that, hold on, apologize. It's now called an AFO. They changed it to an annual financial report. So a couple big things jump out in the fourth quarter. One, it's incomplete. Number two, I had no idea, nor would the council, day-to-day operations are not to oversee the 24/7 day-to-day of city government. However, now being on this side, my job is to oversee that day-to-day. And what we did find out was that requisitions were not done in January, some of January 2023, June of 2023. Obviously it was a huge surprise to us. So saying that the good news, financial footing, financial or base, it's good. Nobody's questioning that. The not good news, and one that we will be fixing, and you will hear our game plan moving forward, what has transpired, how we're going to fix it, how we're going to correct it, and moving forward. So I'm going to hand it off
Thank
to
you.
Matt.
Thank you. We have some questions that we'd like to start with
Okay,
now.
well, this is over. I apologize, but you
apologize
do
too,
need
we have
to
some
hear.
questions.
I
would
get
like-
that, but this is the
Excuse me.
presentation. Matt from
President, can you please let her speak?
We've had her moment to speak
She's
and
still
now
speaking.
Council President, come on, I was in your chair. Don't play this game. Matt from
It's not a game.
Pronexus.
Council President Steele, I think this meeting is a great presentation and it's.
I
William
think
is gonna
it's-
really answer.
concerned that this meeting, we have questions, we should be able to ask these questions, which we just heard from the mayor.
Yeah.
So I just want to sum up what you said. Am I allowed to speak as president? You're saying that the controller did not do the fourth quarter report?
It's in front of you.
No, I'm saying that Pronexus prepared it.
Pronexus and the comptroller.
Okay, I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that.
No, Pronexus and the
You
comptroller.
were opining for quite a while there. I wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself?
So I'm Matt with ProNexus. I'm the outsource manager with the team, and I just wanted to give a little presentation of what we did, our timeline, our scope, and what we ran into, if that's okay. I'll try to keep it a few minutes long, but at least give some detail of what happened. So basically, our engagement timeline was from late January to early May. Our goal was to prepare for the audit, fill in the vacant comptroller seat, and assist with the AFR submission. And then we went with our plan. So we wanted to review the prior year audit requests and ensure readiness for the current year, and then provide any necessary entries or tips for successful audit deliverables. And then we were going to assist with the AFR preparation, offering efficiency tips and accounting system exports for easier uploads, as well as handle day-to-day tasks, provide insights, and train the team once a new comptroller started, and then aim the transition out after 3 to 4 weeks after their start. And that way we can rely on an in-house audit team of staff. And then we had some findings, and here's our timeline and our solutions. So right off the bat, we had issue with the bank reconciliations. What these are, they ensure that all the money in the bank is recorded in your financial system, clarifies audit completeness and lowers risk analysis. The ones that were provided were incorrect and not audit ready. They were completed outside the accounting system and never tied to the bank statement. And not the staff wasn't trained or like given minimal training, and then no reasons for why the activity was booked a certain way. And we ran into over 60 bank accounts. Many were unnecessary and redundant, complicating tracking. And then the new comptroller is currently summarizing and then combining the bank accounts per the auditor's guidance. So we're happy about that to improve efficiency. Right away, we started training the staff on completing the bank recs and ensuring that all bank activity was accounted for. So keep that in mind when you're reviewing the quarterly reports. There might be items missing or that need reclassification. We know that all the money is in the bank accounts. They are just not recorded correctly in the accounting system. So new comptroller is able to catch these up. He's fully trained and aware of the situation, so he's moving forward with that. The team did help a lot, especially the chief accountant clerk from day one. They helped lead this project. Again, I just want to reiterate the importance of bank reconciliations is to prove that all the money is recorded in your accounting system. And then that will be done by the end of the audit. And it's in works currently. So hour by hour, those numbers are changing. We also saw lack of approvals and training and support for processes. So we trained the staff and what the auditors look for to have accurate financials. We led training sessions. The comptroller has been implementing steps and manuals on most day-to-day tasks. IT was also a huge help in this process, as no one was ever trained in the accounting system that's called KVS. So If you don't have formal training, obviously it elongates the process and you won't have accurate financials. And then we ran into an outdated accounting system. So this was inefficient and costly. Most apps that you see in accounting are probably have more capabilities that are on your phone. And this could be a main reason why the accounting work was done in Excel or outside of the accounting system and not caught up. But the comptroller is already leading the way in finding a better system. And we've worked with the staff to help utilize the system the best we can. We saw improvements from day one. And then the fourth issue was there was a lot of reliance on Excel versus utilizing the accounting system. So we were relying on Excel for financial reporting. So it looks good in reports and presentations, but it has significant risk. So it's usually inaccurate because it can be outdated or incomplete or missing data, leading to unreliable reports that can't be trusted. And then you typically are not in compliance with accounting standards and regulations. So the auditors really love to see a bank record and trace it right to your accounting system, and they know everything is recorded. And then you don't have, with Excel, you don't have transparency to the public. And then the auditors can't dig into detail on why something is booked a certain way or what happened with a certain transaction. And therefore I saw a lot of like missed opportunities for improvement with depending on Excel versus leveraging a modern accounting system for features and the new AI and things like that that are coming out. So our recommendations was a software upgrade, and that's already being in play. People are looking at new systems and already trying to utilize the system that we have and just make it better. The next recommendation would be to hire and train additional senior accountants to support the comptroller, either in-house or externally. We've been holding trainings. I know the comptroller trains as much as he can, and the chief account clerk. They're always willing to help and help out other team members. And then another recommendation would be implement regular reconciliations and dual review processes and weekly trainings and feedback from the staff. We just kept hearing a lot that things weren't trained and we don't know why we're doing certain things. We just heard that a lot. So the conclusion of our engagement, significant process was made towards clean and accurate financial records. Every day in the engagement, we were able to make process and nothing was kept from us, which is a good thing. And no one was afraid of change. Sometimes people just want to get us out the building and they don't listen to us, but that was never the case here. Again, keep that in mind when reviewing the financials, that these are all draft and unaudited. After the audit, you'll be able to trust the numbers and you'll know more of the detail that is in them. I want to reiterate again, the comptroller and our chief account clerk have done an excellent job under challenging circumstances. Their knowledge and willingness to change old processes, train and lead staff and work on anything and roll up their sleeves was a huge plus and advantage for us. Other staff members also showed great teamwork and willingness to learn and train together. We would love to see continued improvements in technology, staffing, and procedures. And I think that the city can be a leading example of fiscal responsibility with these changes. And I'd love to see that. So I welcome any questions, requests, or further details on the engagement. If I can't dive into anything during this meeting, please feel free to reach out, and you can always schedule a meeting with me or reach out to Dylan and we'll do a meeting together.
Council President.
Thank you.
Hi,
Councilmember-
so I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I have a question.
Councilmember. Sorry.
Oh, so you're saying that there was some lack of basic accounting principles in the prior years?
Yes, what we saw was there was a big item of management override or review. So basically you can put numbers into the system and there's no check to say a double review. Management can override those numbers and things like that. And a lot of the work seemed to be done in Excel versus in the accounting system, which we'd rather, and I know the auditors would as well.
Wow. Thank you.
Council President,
Councilmember Keel.
am I on here?
That's tough.
Yeah, I'd like to know, going forward here, do you believe that we're in good hands, and will you be overseeing what's going on in the city of Troy and for how long?
Yeah, I do. You know, to be truthful in the beginning, I didn't know how they would find a comptroller so fast. And then they did. And like from day one, new comptroller has been wanting to be trained and finding improvements, bringing some items up to us before we could even bring them. So I think you're in good hands. I just want to make sure that people follow his lead and listen to them. And again, with this, the chief clerk too, as well. Listen to her.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your help in the transition. It was good to have both the council and the administration on board together, bringing you on board to assure a smooth transition. And it seems like we have accomplished that.
I appreciate everyone for having me. I felt very welcome. So thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank
would
you.
open it up. Do you have any more presentations, Mayor?
And we'll now just give some overview of the actual numbers, if you want to.
That's fine with me. I know we have a number of questions, so if we could make it brief.
If you would like. Would you like me to go over them, or would you over the questions you have first?
I open that up to the council. Do you want him to go? We've had an opportunity, a very short, brief opportunity to look this over. But if you want to just give us a brief overview.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate what Matt said. All of these numbers are kind of draft numbers, unaudited numbers. We're still plugging into our financial system these numbers to make sure that we can produce reports for you guys with the actual real numbers that are in there instead of, you know, going through spreadsheets and figuring out that kind of situation. So moving forward, the revenues for the general fund, they're pretty consistent with what we had for last year compared to 2022. There were some increases, including of money and property, which just went to it was a significant increase driven by the interest on the money market. So there was just, you know, interest rates have been going up, which is not great for the consumer, but is great if you have money in the bank and are earning interest. So those monies are now getting more interest attached to them. And that was an increase of about 173% year over year. There was also sale property for loss. That's an increase due to insurance recoveries that we have. And so that's one of the reasons for that. The decreases for the federal aid and such like that is just due to reclassing that needs to be done. So that's on the fourth from the bottom. And that's just, you know, it looks like, again, that there's federal aid. We didn't actually get as much this last year over 2022. It's just the fact that the money came into one bank account and we need to reclass it to another to account for it in the correct account. Our expenditures last year.
Could we ask you questions about revenue at this point in time?
Let's go ahead.
Mr. Vera?
Thank you. I have a copy of the third quarter report. Are you on? I believe I am. Yeah, I have a copy of the third quarter report from 23. And when I look at, I mean, generally speaking, the format's the same. But when I look at total operating revenues as of September 30th, according to that report, we were at 51.6 million. And this new report says 162 million. Is that correct?
According to our accounting system, yes. Like I said, this is drafted numbers. So when I went back to try to replicate the quarter 3 numbers based on what's in our accounting system, they did not match. So that's one of the kind of issues that we're talking about here, where there's not a way to actually track back to some of these reports that were given to not only myself, but ProNexus. And that's the biggest time consuming issue for us, is trying to not only reconcile the 2023 accounts, but going back to verify the 2022 monies to see where he received, how he accounted for those monies in the previous years, which seems to also have happened in some of the quarterly reports last year, where there was some revenues that were maybe not recognized and or at least not put into our system. So there's also additional revenues that are received at the end of the year that we don't, including revenues for the water from municipalities and such. We get that in December or sometimes in January, which we then reclass back to December. So there are some additional bigger revenues that do come in, but if you actually look at the 2022 numbers compared to the financial report, that's 140 million that we received in revenues for 2022. So we did get an increase of revenues for 22 million. That is again something that we're diving into. We're making sure all those numbers are correct, but this is the whole process right now, giving you what we can give you at the moment based on all the work we've done.
Right. This report, the fourth quarter report, also states that we brought in twice as much revenue as was budgeted. Is that correct?
That is correct. From this report, yes. Now, again, these numbers.
Is there any way to specifically explain what? How is that possible? How is it possible we brought in twice what was budgeted?
I cannot explain that, but if you also again look at 2022, we brought in 140 million. So I don't know exactly what the budget amount for 2022 was. But again,
there are revenues that will be classified as part of this. Council President, I know you had.
I'm sorry, what?
I just wish to speak.
Okay, but he's right in the middle of the conversation.
So.
So again, these are numbers that we're still trying to try to reconcile and also put in numbers from our bank account. So again, these are hard draft numbers. There are some revenues in here, state aid, even general public support. There's some other things that we haven't fully delved into yet because we still haven't gotten to those accounts to fully reconcile. So again, these are numbers that are in our financial system that haven't been audited or fully delved into based on the fact that we're still reconciling stuff from January. I just got through to July on one of our biggest bank accounts. Our chief account clerk is working on the other biggest bank account that also wasn't reconciled through July. So we're just verifying all of these amounts before we actually get, before we can give you, like Matt said, the full actual numbers that are a part of our city's accounting system.
Understood. So then, in your opinion, would it be premature to make any, I guess, to infer anything from this report? Then it sounds like the numbers aren't, that you haven't completed all of your work. So any.
That is correct. And again, like most of the time we get quarterly reports, these are ones that are unaudited. In this instance, they just happen to also be not fully reconciled and or the numbers haven't been plugged into our financial system. I can only give you what the numbers I have in our system. I don't want to give you numbers that are in our bank account that you tell me to replicate within my system that I don't have that. If you look at our bank statements, every amount has been corrected, every amount has been expended. Everything so far looks good in our. The fact that not everything is put into our system is what you're seeing in front of you.
Councilmember Brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to touch on, Matt had mentioned the unreconciled accounts, and then you also touched on that. You're saying through June, is that of 2023?
For some of them, yes. Some of our larger accounts, actually, we had to go back to January. But I hadn't reconciled at that from that point.
So having accounts that far back unreconciled would be harder to account for a book that isn't yours, a report that isn't yours?
Correct.
All right. This one's for probably Matt. I think you've probably been doing it and seen it a lot. Is this normal and practical accounts for like a city of our size? Would you say this is standard practice?
Yeah, I mean, I go into some organizations that are behind 3 or 2 years. Like I have another one that's behind 3 years now. So yes, it looks bad, but my big help and what made me feel better is that we keep finding the monies. All the money is there in the bank accounts. It's just that it's not reconciled. So with someone in Excel, they could probably catch us up fast, make it look pretty, and it's good. But your accounting system is really not up to date. So like diving into certain amounts or checking if a customer paid twice, did they get a refund? Like you won't have that detail doing stuff in Excel. That's why we need that accounting system up to date. I haven't found anything that's alarming, which makes me happy. It's more of just reclasses and booking those missing items with the help of the auditors. And we're going account by account. That was with the AFR. That's what made me happier too, that every account is going to be looked at. So I'm not that alarmed. If it was 2 years, then yeah, I would be.
All right, thank you. This one is probably for Dylan. The total operating expenses was negative $35,856,900. That is an unreconciled number, correct? So we're finding money, we're not losing money, so the number should decrease.
That is correct. And that's been 2022, so those numbers, again, what I'm pulling, so it's actually the 2023 number is 12.9. So again, that number is not real. We're not in that bad of shape. Even close, we're actually doing really well. It's just the fact again that there's some revenues that still haven't been recognized in our financial system.
Okay, so we keep coming back to the financial system of, that's the one that's completely out of date.
The previous system that I've said many times during these meetings needs to be updated.
So that's probably not going to continue for next year as long as we find a new accounting system.
Unfortunately, it takes 18 to 24 months for a system to be implemented. It's not like a super easy thing. You have to convert all the data. You have to train everybody. You have to make sure that everything converted correctly. You have to verify everything was converted correctly. So speaking with ProNexus, who've had clients who've actually switched systems under their umbrella, they said 18 months. When I talked to the various ERP, those are the accounting firms, accounting system firms, moving forward, they said with the size of Troy, 18 to 24 months is the expected time frame.
All right, so we're in conversation. That's good. We have an idea on how long it's going to take to have better bookkeeping, and it seems like something we're priority on. That answers the other question I had. Using the current format with Excel, it's not transparent, like Matt said. The best way to really ease my mind and imagine the public's mind is transparent numbers. I appreciate the work that you're doing, the proactive work. And, thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Council President, Councilmember McLaren.
So as all of this is happening, as you're reconciling last year, what is happening with our current year?
So I'm trying to stay on top of it as much as possible. What I'm trying to also think about while I'm doing this reconciliation for 2023 is implementing new ways to actually do this kind of thing. Matt touched on the subject of us, one of the recommendations is reconciling more often. I think one of the issues even prior to 2023 is that we were reconciling once a month. We should probably be doing it closer to twice a week, once a week, especially with the amount of bank accounts we have. Another thing that I've also been trying to do is cut down on our bank accounts. I've been working with our auditors, Bonadio, to make sure that we're both on the same page that, hey, does this make sense? That I'm doing this. It seems very, like Matt said, redundant having these two pretty much same accounts. I'd rather, just be able to have, a dozen tops bank accounts that we're trying to reconcile. So it's not also overwhelming for my staff and our team to actually get this process done in a timely manner.
So you're confident that by the June meeting, we'll have the first quarter of 2024?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Any other questions? Can we move on to expenditures then, please?
For the expenditures, it does look like, spent, based on last year, about 0.58% or about $1 million under what we expended for the 2022 year. But we did spend more than what we budgeted for. Some of these, I'm still getting some details on, so I won't have complete answers for you on some of these, but I do have some answers for the bigger changes that occurred.
Council.
And I will take any questions you have on the expenditure side of the general fund.
Councilmember McLaren.
Could you go over the, under code 2, the fixed assets, where we have a over 2,000% increase? Or
So it is a 2,000% increase, and I would have to get back to you on the actual details of that. I was actually more looking at the change from 2023 to 2022, which we actually spent 24 million less. So I didn't get too far into the details on that, just because I was looking more at the year over year and not the budgeted amount versus what we spent. So I'll have to get back to you on the details for that. I apologize.
can you give me an example of fixed assets?
Like any of the buildings we own, construction equipment, some of that, if it has a depreciation value, that's a fixed asset, vehicles, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what's thrown into the fixed asset. It's anything that pretty much can be depreciated over time.
Thank you.
Council President?
Councilmember Vera.
So when I'm looking at both revenue and expenditures, the totals for 2022, right, the second column, those are directly out of KVS.
That's well.
And it's your opinion that those books have been reconciled, and you're not going back and recategorizing things from 22. You're only categorizing things from 23.
I'm only looking at 2023. I just used the same format that Andy used, in which I just pulled again the data from 2022 from our KVS system. I can't really speak on the 2022 numbers because I didn't really delve into them. I was just pulling them from my system.
Went into the KVS system and you just, 22 and you hit print. And that's the numbers we're looking at.
Exactly. So the exact report that I pulled for 2023, I also pulled for 2022. I then put those into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I did a comparison using a pivot.
Okay, so while I can't compare the fourth quarter numbers to the third quarter report that was prepared under the previous administration, admittedly the 23 numbers aren't quite there yet, but I can compare those two columns to look for discrepancies or changes or, I guess points of interest, right? Like, for instance, miscellaneous spend in 22, it was 5.5 million. Now, last year it was 9.1.
Right. So I don't know the reason behind that huge increase, nor do I even know, I won't lie here, I don't know if that number from 2022 is correct. Again, going back to what
that is what's in KVS.
That is what's in our financial system.
I might add that the 2022 also withstood an independent audit. So those figures should be correct.
And again, I can't speak on those numbers. I know that we've used Bonadio to, ask them about some of the situations that have occurred in the 2022 stuff when we were doing, we were trying to figure out some of the numbers that Andy was presenting, or the former comptroller was presenting. We were asking Bonadio how they got to these numbers and that kind of thing, because again, we couldn't figure out exactly how those numbers made their way because they didn't actually reflect anything that we could find.
So just one other question. The 23 budget for miscellaneous expenses, that same line that we were just looking at, we budgeted $4,000.
Correct.
We spent 9.1 million.
Correct. I'm assuming
we reclassifying expenses is miscellaneous, like a catch-all for things currently until we find the correct bucket for those.
Right now, it's not like we dump money into that account to figure out where to dump it.
Expenditures, right? Right, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, like-
Classifying the expenses.
Yeah, so we're trying to, again, this is something where it was booked to this specific account. We're still getting through the books to try to reconcile that account. There's probably going to be a reclass that occurs for that account to make it to the true number. Once we're done reconciling and once the audit is done.
Okay, and so this report will be in a final form for June's finance?
For the, no, the audit's not going to be completed until like August or September. So that's when we'll have.
On the 23 closeout.
Correct.
All right.
Thank
you.
I just want to ask about the 2022 general fund is showing a deficit of over 30 million.
Correct. And again, that's just what I'm pulling from the financial
But that-
system.
But that's 2022 was independently audited, never any mention of deficits. So how do we suddenly have a deficit?
It's not a deficit. It's again, it's our accounting system not accounting for our actual financial status. All I'm doing is pulling information from our financial system. I can't go back and figure out how that number came to be that the former comptroller presented to you because that number is not available.
And Council President, if I may, I was in your shoes. I said the same thing, okay? There is no deficit. The problem is, and you'll see, for instance, the MAC, it was not closed out. So these non-closed requisitions, et cetera, the problem is at the bank, the money's there. To put it in layman's terms, it was not put into the accounting system. So somebody new comes in, I'm sure the prior comptroller knew where to pull, where to close, what in his head, there's nothing written down. So when accounts weren't closed, there's no way, and maybe Matt can explain it better, but there's no way of knowing what was in his head. And to track some of these numbers, it takes a long time to get through that,
Right, so
tracking
we're talking
system.
2022. I'm not talking 2023. I'm talking 2022. I
Matt,
mean,
maybe do you mind delving in here, please?
Yeah, I could jump in. So that was actually a question I had. That was a good question. So right away, I went to the audited financial statements and I said, okay, is there a deficit? So the general fund, there's not. There's 13 million surplus, but then the capital project funds results in the deficit. So, and then the non-major funds. So that helped me rely on it a little bit more. I think it's 29 million deficit, which if you're spending money on capital projects and you got some bond money, that makes more sense. And I can rely on the audited numbers. I'd rather look at that. But yeah, that is a good question right off the bat, but the general fund is not in a deficit. And then this year's deficit is because of the reclasses and the additional monies that has to be booked. And then another question I liked was going line by line, looking at the expenditures. That's actually something we do during the AFR, and we call out those big percentage changes, and we know there's reclasses to be done. And the auditors are also going to be looking at that, especially if there's a 9 million jump, something like that. So we know those will be good after the audit. So, but those are good questions to go line by line like that. And those are things we can look into, but just keep in mind, it takes us a little time, but if you throw out little questions like that, it's easier to dig into the smaller accounts and to provide detail of like why fixed assets, what's in there, what's in miscellaneous right now. So.
yeah, we certainly weren't running deficits because our S&P was upgraded and we were.
And again, I 100% agree with them.
To be handed this.
And I you don't know how frustrating it is to pull this number and not realize it's not real. Like to me, as an accountant and a person who has a financial background, our financial system doesn't reflect our financial stance. And that to me is a huge risk Because again, I can't figure out how, and not just me, the third party people within here as well. You figure out how the previous comptroller came and did the job without using our financial system. Because that's the whole point of a financial system, is to record our finances. And if it's not in there, nobody can pick up how previous people did it before without proper instruction. And there wasn't even instruction for how. So now we're pretty much starting from scratch to try to figure out how we can get these numbers to be reflective of the actual stance of the court.
Do you want to continue, or do we feel that?
Well, I just wanted,
I'm wondering if there's any point.
well,
Oh, you have,
Yeah,
okay, sure.
I just want to say, so I'm glad to hear that the money's in the bank. There's no problem, there's money in the bank. It just seems like, you know, people have their own way of doing things. Maybe I've been into that before. So maybe did some on Excel, but he knew in the end what the deal was. Okay, it's not anything. So these numbers are not accurate. How, I realize you're going through, diligently going through these lines and reconcile everything. How far are you along right now? Percentage wise?
Well, I would say about 75 to 80% done of the 2023 year. And again, I have to echo what Matt said. I really appreciate him. He's not here right now, but the other person, Omar, and then our chief account clerk, has stepped up to the plate in ways that I am so grateful for. Because as a person who didn't have as much knowledge of the Troy's ways of doing things, she has a lot of that knowledge, and she's been helping me navigate this new job in a way that I don't know if I would be mentally okay if I didn't have somebody who's helping me navigate this craziness, which, as you can tell, is a headache for just you guys. Imagine what I'm doing to try to reconcile and make sure these numbers reflect what Troy actually is.
I just have one more question. As far as 2023, everything has been paid, everything, all the bills are in, there's no surprises, everything's, we know, everything has been cleaned out.
We stopped this, when I told you at the end of March that we were closing the books, that was me saying we are no longer accepting payments or anything being charged to 2023. We are now closing the books and making sure that everything is reflective in the bank. That's in our financial system, so that when we pull a report like this next year and we compare it, it's actual numbers that we can trust.
And we're getting a new system.
Yes.
Councilman Vera.
So are you currently, as you're using the KVS system for the 24 fiscal year, are you running into any issues using that system and entering the data?
Yes. Do you want me to elaborate?
So I do. I guess where I'm going is, are we going to have similar issues to what you guys are working through right now?
Well, I don't know if this, I can't speak to how the previous comptroller dealt with this system, but I've been dealing a lot more with our IT department and the actual support help at the KVS. So one of the issues is that we have two KVS softwares, where one of them captures a lot of our revenue, treasurer's office, which is like taxes, garbage collection, that kind of thing. Then we have also the enterprise version, which also shows displays our expenditures, where our POs go, and all that kind of stuff. How the revenues get over to KVS Enterprise is that it's a process called a spin-off. It's pretty much just a transfer of data from the standard revenue side into our enterprise to reflect what's going on. Since Andy left, since the previous comptroller left, the spin-off process has kind of taken a bit of a hit because we haven't gotten the full instruction. So up until about mid-April, I've come to find that this is me just doing my dive, where I was like, hey, I'm trying to reclass things that should have been booked in January that I know need to be rebooked into 2023 December. Those numbers were in our KVS system. When I went to go talk to somebody about it, I found out that that was because the data transfer wasn't actually fully working from the one software to the other. We have now rectified that issue. We actually started and talked with, we actually had the KVS support sit with our accountant today to go over the exact process of how that will be done moving forward without any hiccups. Moving forward, we should not have an issue with that, but going back, we had to go back and input a lot of entries. We had to verify that those entries were actually done correctly and made sure that they matched what was actually put into the bank.
Excellent. Or rather, not excellent. Last question. When do we recognize an expenditure? Is that when the funds actually, I guess, what type of accounting system does the city use? Some sort of hybrid accrual system? How is it that, when do we recognize an expenditure?
So my understanding is how it gets put into the system is the city clerk or the city treasurer at the end of the day will get like a receipt tape. They'll put it into the bank. They'll then give that receipt tape to the account clerk, head account clerk in the comptroller's office, saying this is what we deposited for the day. Once you do a spin-off, which is the data, and then they input that data the next day. Because so move back for a second. So when we collect the money to deposit into the bank,
Let me
it's
stop for a second. I guess what I'm asking is, when I look at these line items here, and I see that,
expenditures. I'm sorry. I was talking about revenue. I'm
you know,
sorry.
when I see postage, postage might be a bad one, but miscellaneous other, right? Were those dollars earmarked, or were those dollars that was cash that actually went out of an account?
So when we reconcile the accounts and so the amount will get put into it's an accrual system. Sorry. I was trying to get into more details. I'm sorry. Like Calvin, I'm trying to get into more detail.
I can jump in. It's modified accrual basis. So that big jump, I feel like that's a reclass, or maybe it's a fixed asset because it's so big.
Excellent. Thank you.
Matt, in response to my deficit question, it sounded like you were merging funds. You were talking about sort of that is not the way we usually do things, or hadn't been doing them. So that to me is a bit of a red flag.
Yeah. And I would like a better presentation on that part of, if I was presenting that, I guess, because on the audited financials, it breaks it out, general, capital, and it kind of shows. I would rather that, and I think Dylan would agree, probably changing that so you can actually see what each fund is doing.
That's usually what we've done.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. Okay. I turn it over to the council now. What is your sense? I think we're in agreement. These numbers are not providing us with a real clear picture. Do we have a heavy agenda? Do we want to continue, or do we want to call it and ask Dylan to come back in June to present the June report? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final numbers.
I would appreciate you coming back. We want some better numbers, and we want the math to add up, make sense.
Just want to make sure, are you talking about this report or the first quarter report?
The first quarter report is, you said you'd have it in June?
Oh, yes, okay. I just want to make sure, because again, I don't want to provide these numbers until these are audited and these are, if that's okay with you.
I
just want
understand. I'd like to see, we're hoping that by the first quarter, you have been in your position, and those numbers should make some sense, correct? And you own those numbers.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just two quick things. I cannot stress enough. I mean, listen, we all know the history of finances here in the city of Troy. I was here in the 90s when I was in my 20s as council president. A control board came in. Fast forward, on the verge of bankruptcy, the prior mayor and myself take office. I want to make it really clear. Nobody here is saying there is any issues in terms of our financial stability. However, the accounting for our finances, very, very poor. And we're going to fix that. And saying that, this isn't pointing fingers at anyone. This is to say that that happens when you bring someone new. You find things that would not come to the eye. And, you know, the reports that we were being given, you know, numbers were being plugged, et cetera. What will be audited will be, you know, the numbers in that particular account. But saying that, when you bring in ProNexus and new comptroller, they don't obviously know what the prior comptroller, you know, was thinking by not putting a number here or putting a number there. So saying that, I want to say we're on sound financial footing. I feel very confident saying that. However, we have to fix KBS. We can't use that anymore. And, you know, God forbid, Dylan, you know, isn't here in 6, 7, 9 months, a year from now. We want to be in a position, if someone were to come in, to be able to look into that system and know what's closed out, what isn't closed out. But honestly, to have reconciliations not closed from January and June, that's problematic. And that has caused, you know, this report from being like 90, I would say more toward 90%. Saying that, there is one last big thing that I noticed, once again, looking through these for 8 years, that I had a really big red flag. And I do want Dylan to explain this, and that is the MAC, because we all know the MAC dissolved. But in terms of the accounting for that, I'll let Dylan explain.
So when the MAC dissolved, we ended up receiving the remaining money that they were holding off for us. It was about $7 million. That money is in our bank account. We received the monies from the Troy debt service. That money is not recorded in our KBS system. That's just one of the larger accounts that, again, hasn't been reconciled or even input into our system. So right now, just thinking of that number, that brings us down to 5. You know what I mean? So we're chipping away slowly, but we need to get the full details. I just literally talked to the OSC. There's some deposits that are coming in withdrawals for that we want to get more details on, so that when we do get audited, we know exactly what those amounts are. Because they take stuff for tax purposes. For when we were under financial overview, there was the comptroller would actually take our taxes and then give them to the county. It wasn't a direct fee. So all that kind of stuff we need to get into and actually get those numbers with the detailed information. So again, there's some information that we can book right away, but there's also stuff we're waiting on guidance either from the state or federal agencies or on a DO to give us direction.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Dylan and that Nomar and the team in the comptroller's office. You should know they've been working weekends to get the AFR reported or filed in time because you have to file it by April 30th. Monumental tasks. They're 90% there at the comptroller's office. State comptroller's office very much aware of this. But saying that, I cannot thank and recognize the comptroller and their team. They've been pouring in. I stop in on the weekend. Dylan's here. I leave at 8 o'clock at night. Dylan's here, Gabrielle, Adrian, the crew. And thank you, Omar and Matt. They've really been phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's, you know, I said earlier, thank you. I think it's also important that we put into perspective the fact that there was no IT to back up the controller's office in the previous administration due to some very tragic circumstances. And the controller's office had been gutted, absolutely gutted. And so they were working in some very difficult circumstances. And I have to say, you know, we're accepting what you're saying here. I have to dispute some of your comments. And I'm not going to get into a he said, she said, that's not productive. Nor is finger pointing productive either. But I'm glad to see that we are moving forward. And I look forward to the first quarter report in June. So thank you very much. We have a number of ordinances. Moving on to our finance meeting. Ordinance 24. Ordinance accepting transfer of a water line constructed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to supply the city of Troy drinking water to Waterford and Half Moon, and accepting water line utility easements located on private lands in the city of Troy at or near 1011 2nd Avenue. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, a second?
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. I'll get there. Discussion on the resolution or the ordinance.
I don't have any.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance 24 is adopted unanimously. Ordinance 25, ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit, Lyons et al. Petitioners versus City of Troy et al. Respondents, Supreme Court, Rensselaer County, Index EF 2023-274507. Councilmember Soriento, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan, discussion on the resolution.
Council President,
Councilmember Vera.
I was wondering if Corporation Council could just
Yep.
describe this and,
That would be
provide a
great.
little bit of background detail to this.
Yes, this is, this actually touches on two of our favorite topics. One is technology and the other one is FOIL. This was a late response to a FOIL request by a local newspaper. And as a result of the decision, they were awarded attorney's fees. This is an authorization to settle the claim for attorney fees for that claim.
And they incurred those attorney's fees disputing a denial, or how did
Correct.
they incur those fees?
Disputing the delay and the ultimate partial disclosure. Court ordered the city to produce additional documents in 2023 and to pay attorney's fees. The documents were provided shortly after the decision, and then this cleans up the remaining issue of the attorney's.
Council President.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Councilmember Keel.
I'd like to know if there's, what do we charge for all these FOIL requests that come through?
My understanding, and I'm not as versed as prior corporation counsel is, there are limited circumstances where there are bulky or expansive requests where we can seek compensation for the time beyond a certain point. But for routine requests that take, I believe it's less than 2 hours, but don't quote me, we don't have the ability to charge.
Okay. So would these be chargeable type, the one these here?
This was a pretty big request. We probably could have had we,
Okay.
handled it a little more expeditiously. But as far as the technology side, is we're trying to use the technology we have and that we're getting in the Corporation Counsel's office to better track deadlines so that we can make sure that we're timely with our responses and organizing the way that we handle the FOIL.
Thank you.
Councilmember Casey.
I guess I just had a question for you. I mean, do you think it was not keeping track of timing, or was there an unwillingness to answer the FOIL request? Or do we know?
I don't know because it was in 2023, but I can say that it is a chain of, so a FOIL request comes into a central system and then they're sent to whatever department has the information that's being requested. Then that individual department, say the water plant, is going to respond back to the FOIL officer with the documents. Either or both need to check for information that might not be subject to FOIL and remove that information. And then at that point, the information goes out. If it happens that quickly, then it can be responded to relatively quickly. But for extensive or difficult requests, those can take a lot more time, which gets back to, under those circumstances, okay, we should be able to charge going forward for ones that are taking a significant amount.
Was this information, has it been provided?
Yeah.
Okay, when did that happen?
Shortly after the decision, which I believe came out in January or February, maybe December,
Is this,
around when I started.
was this just a one-off thing, or was there, any terms of not being with FOIL request or anything like that?
Another one, and I do expect one more where we'll be paying attorney's fees, but we're
Is it a police-related matter?
there's no one department, and there's no one, and again, we're not pointing fingers.
Yeah, I was asking.
The procedure needs to be tightened up. We need a better electronic system for tracking. And then if we just pay attention to deadlines, we don't have to meet all the deadlines. So we can set a deadline of 30 days to respond. And then if we can't meet that deadline, we can give ourselves an extension. So it's not a matter of, but when we keep missing our deadlines without extension, that's, if you read the decisions, that's where we were stumbling a little bit. So by harping on it and really paying attention to it, I don't think we're going to have these issues going forward.
Council President,
Councilmember Soriento?
is there any information or anything that would show that there was any response besides the automatic response that was received? Any type of like email or anything saying, you know, we're working on this and we're going to get this out?
There should be. I believe so. I believe when a request is received, the system automatically acknowledges. So nobody has to be involved in that part.
Yeah.
But then after that, people have to physically.
Yeah. Is
send
there
out
like any documents or anything that there was any moving parts to that, like any action taken?
Well, it gets, so then the FOIL officer assigns it to someone.
Yeah.
To fulfill. And then they work together to come up with a timeline. And then when the information's received, or if the request is rejected. So for example, if someone asked for all of the social security numbers for all of the employees, that would not be
Right,
anything
no,
that's foilable. So we would deny that request, and then that deny would go out and we would say that request is closed. If it was something they could have, which is the names of all the employees in the city, we would send them the list, and same thing in that transmission, we would say your FOIL request is now closed. And then that comes off our list and it's done. We're closed.
Council President.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brosnan?
Don't be so happy. You said there's 2 currently, and then you expect there to be a 3rd. Do we have a plan in place to stop the bleeding here so
think-
people
I
can
think we
get
have.
the information they need and
Yes.
request?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Technology and just harping on it so that everybody pays attention.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 25 adopted unanimously. Ordinance 26, ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to wit, City of Troy plaintiff versus Citibank NA as trustee for CMLTI Asset Trust and Fay Servicing LLC defendants. Troy City Court, index number CR 061820. Councilmember Soriento, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion. Do you want to give us a briefing on this as well?
Yep, this
Thank
was
you.
a case that we actually won at the city court level. We won a very large judgment that was overturned immediately on appeal. Came back down to city court level, and we negotiated extensively with the defendant, and we agreed on this amount for the settlement. This will fully resolve the matter. There will be no more appeals or any more action.
Any questions?
Council President,
Councilmember Vera?
how much should we spend to demolish the building?
I don't know. I can get back to you, but I don't know.
I saw that the memo said that the amount recovered is more than twice the demolition costs incurred by the city.
I think you can infer from that, but I honestly don't. I can let you know after we.
So when the decision was overturned, the city had the opportunity to have the case heard again in city court, or?
Correct. It was originally a city court decision.
Right, this is 1.4 million, something.
It was a little high.
Yeah. One of the zombie properties.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I was just, I don't think that's correct. I don't think this 65,000 is more than double of the demolition costs. I think the demolition costs were somewhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. So this isn't much. In terms of the impact that property had on neighbors, and but it's been negotiated
Fully, yes.
fully.
With Rick's help. I mean, Rick was more involved in the litigation part. I just came in for the settlement.
Yeah. I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions from members? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution, the ordinance 26 is adopted unanimously. Ordinance 27, ordinance transferring funds within 2024 general fund for facilities maintenance equipment repair. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Keel. Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted unanimously. Ordinance authorizing ordinance 28, ordinance authorizing settlement of claims filed in Rensselaer County Supreme Court against the City of Troy by Troy Slag Products Company, Inc., index number EF 2022-272195, Adams Street Properties, LLC, index number EF 2022-272194, and American Rock Salt Company, LLC, index number EF 2022-272214, for property taken by eminent domain. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. You want to walk us through this one as well?
Yes, thank you. So I understand for quite some time there's been development of the South Troy Industrial Road, which is a roadway that will direct and divert industrial traffic around the infamous rock salt pile south instead of through city streets in order to cross over the Congress Street Bridge. The city took ownership of a strip of land sufficient for the road going south and also along the back of the Troy Slag and Adams Street property, which are the property that includes the rock salt pile and the one immediately north of the rock salt pile. We were sued by these three entities because if the construction of the road behind these two parcels will eliminate a railroad spur, and the rock salt that is currently stockpiled at that location is delivered via rail. So as soon as we build that portion of the road, the rail access is eliminated for this particular tenant, which is American Rock Salt, one of the plaintiffs, as well as the underlying landowners. So in order to resolve the lawsuits and in order to, more importantly, get a written commitment of moving that rock salt pile south, we were able to happily negotiate not just settlement of these multi-million-dollar lawsuits, but also to negotiate a written commitment to move that rock salt pile within 3 years. There was a lot of discussion over that timing. We did allow for some 2 annual extensions of that date, but everybody is pushing, we hope, for moving that rock salt pile within the next 3 years, which would then open up those 2 parcels for development that's more consistent with your comprehensive plan that you passed, I believe in 2018. I have my year right, 2019.
Thank you,
Council President,
Councilmember Bear.
isn't that 5 years?
3 years plus 2 1-year extensions would be 5.
Okay, so, yeah, agrees that the salt pile will be fully and completely relocated from its current location to another location no later than April 1st of
2019.
2029.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is there anything else the city needs to provide for the relocation of the salt pile? In other words, is the owner of the salt pile solely responsible for the relocation of that salt pile? Or is it, they'll move it if the city does something else?
Oh, no, we do nothing. else at
We
this
do
point.
nothing.
Other than.
It's up to them to find the land. It's up to them to pay the cost to move the salt pile, all of that.
Well, it doesn't need to be moved if it's done over time. You just have to accept deliveries at a new location, complete the existing
well,
location,
right,
and then
right.
the pile will be gone. My understanding is that there is already currently a location in mind, whether there's any written agreements to that effect, I don't know. But this location would allow for an actual building around the salt pile, which would remove the need for the current rock salt company to tarp that giant pile, which you'll notice has been implemented recently. The reason it can't be moved right now is because there is some environmental abatement going on that site with an uncertain end date. So that's why we ended up negotiating somewhat of a window, is based on the commitment we were unable to get with respect to the new site. Had that site been immediately available, this would have been a much shorter turnaround.
Okay. And the city putting the project on hold, right?
Correct.
South Troy Industrial Road Phase 2 was going to cross the canal, continue north past the salt pile, all the way, I don't remember where it terminates.
Adams Street.
Adams. The section between the bridge, the new bridge, and Adams will not be constructed until the salt pile has been moved. How does that affect that ongoing project?
So,
Specifically the state and federal funding for that project.
okay, so it's about 2 city blocks that we're pausing, and it does not affect our state or federal funding. We've been very cognizant of that and very cautious about that. We do have a commitment from the landowners that whoever owns whatever entity owns those properties at the time of the redevelopment, that road will go in, or if the planning commission approves a slightly different route for the road, that the connection will be made at that point. So it will be built in the future.
So the project that's currently under construction, right? South Troy Phase 2 is now going to end after the bridge, and that project will be closed out?
Because it's essentially done. Those 2 properties that we're talking about that are affected by this settlement are the 2 northernmost projects. So all of the other industrial traffic is already moved. And by crossing the bridge, we've provided access for these 2 properties to go south on the industrial road. So the rerouting of the industrial traffic is complete by getting to the point where we're pausing.
Any connection made from the end of the bridge as constructed by the current project and the future project will provide a public right-of-way between Adams and Bridge.
Correct.
Okay.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
I just want to say, being from Troy, we talked about, all you hear people talk about over the years is moving that soil pile. We talk about development and the downtown and just moving everything south in the development, the soil pile, and the soil pile's in the wrong area. And after all these years, finally, we're moving the soil pile. And I think people from Troy are going to be overjoyed to hear that we're finally moving the soil pile. Very thankful. It's a good day for Troy.
Council President.
Councilmember Soriento.
I also want to echo what Council Member Casey was saying, and I commend you, the mayor and the deputy mayor, for getting this going. And this has been a long waiting, and it's been a priority from day one. And we've been waiting for a very long time to get this done, for years. And so I want to really thank you all for moving this along. This is huge. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
I will echo the echo, and say, say that it's nice to get it over the finish line and want to commend the previous administration for all of their efforts in.
They
in-
did nothing on this.
Oh, yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Oh,
They never completed it or executed it.
I would respectfully, disagree with that.
Just got
But
in the
it-
water.
It has required steady and, concerted efforts, and I want to thank everyone involved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 28 is adopted unanimous. Ordinance 29. Ordinance amending chapter 216 of the Troy City Code. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Steele, Councilmember Brosnan, Council President Steele. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Vera, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion?
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
The changes in these fees, is there a revenue forecast for the golf course, given these increases?
Leave it.
This was,
I don't think, I think it's a new classification. Student. Am I wrong?
So, council member, this really is more about opening up the golf course to more folks. So, like we encourage some other different class of folks and give them some discounts to come on and enjoy the golf course. That's what this does.
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand it looks like it was fee increases, no?
It is fee increases.
It's, I believe, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's a new class that brings it down to, so there's a resident fee and it matches the resident fee for college students.
The,
Council President. The increase in the fees that you're seeing has already come before us and passed.
I thought so. That was,
So what
Was previous
student
piece of
fee.
legislation?
No, the student fee is being added.
Yeah, we're including students. Yeah, it's a different class.
So if the way it's showing it, it's including what was passed previously, but adding that new class of a college student. That's,
it's very unclear.
What
the
I
way
have in
it's
front of
written.
me as things, items struck out and written in. You're telling me that's not what we're considering this
you're
evening?
voting on, well, I think the part that you're referring to that's already crossed out was a decision that was already passed. What you're looking at is adding of the college student fee.
Yeah, there really was no need to have. It was,
So we should then provide something that showed what was currently in effect with
exactly.
striking out
Okay.
or adding what.
That is so what you're looking at is with the current, adding that class, so.
Okay, so there is no proposed increase to fees. The increases I see here have already been adopted.
Actually, all you're voting on is you're allowing a new class, like there's residents, there's senior, there's non-resident. We're adding college student, and that's to match the resident fee.
Did I miss a memo?
No,
Did I
no,
miss?
no.
Okay.
No, you
One
didn't.
page. Bunch of items struck out.
No accompanying memo, there was nothing to explain. So
Apologize for
I appreciate
the lack of
your,
it. That is what you're.
we
voting.
have in person.
If you see the new, the existing fees, you can see those are included with adding that college class.
Right, the fees were increased as part of the budget last year.
Correct.
So, so all we're doing is changing classifications,
You're adding that
And adding-
college student.
adding college student ability to be residents of Troy, to play golf and enjoy our beautiful golf.
Beautiful for your product. Yes,
Which is
we can all agree on that.
reaping the benefits of our investment.
Yes, it is. So
Everybody loves.
next time, I apologize. We'll tee it up more with a memo.
Oh,
I like the fun.
any other questions? from council members? Now that we understand what we're actually voting on, and I don't have any golf jokes, can't bring in par or anything,
Getting
whatever.
close, Council
Get-
President.
getting close. At any rate, all in favor? Opposed? Ordinance 29 is adopted unanimously. Ordinance 30, ordinance amending the 2024 Special Revenue Fund budget to accept and appropriate American Rescue Act funds from Rensselaer County for the Knickerbocker Ice Rink Restoration Project. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento, seconded by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution.
Council President,
Councilmember McLaren.
So the list that we saw of the improvements to the rink looked like it was all about the slab and the refrigeration and the ice and all of that. I wonder, what about the building itself? So are we exhausting all the funding from the county to fix the surfaces and the refrigeration? And will the city then have to fix the building and build the whole complex?
So council member, that's a great question. So yes, basically with the county's portion of it, it's really all focused on all the components that will actually bring the actual ice back. So the floor, the cooling system, all of those things. Where Troy comes in with the partnership, the collaboration after is doing those exact things. Do we come in and, do we add a concession stand? We freshen up the bathrooms, things like that. So, but the phase one of this that the county has used their ARPA funds for, that gets the rink back up and running operationally, gets the ice back.
So then what? So is the city gonna have to bond for the rest of that project? Are we putting the cart before the horse if we're
So-
not?
Apologize.
No, go ahead.
Well, so it's almost the other, no, it's exactly than cart because this is really the heavy lift is the ice. That is, you're not going to see another $2 million request to come back to try to improve the building. I mean, we're actually lucky. The building itself has great bones. It's a nice solid building. I'm not a hockey guy, to be honest, but from what all the hockey enthusiasts and the folks that are, the contractors and engineers, it's such an ideal spot because compared to say like Fair Park, when it doesn't actually get as freezing cold for the audience, things like that. So the really big heavy lift and why it's kind of sat dormant a bit for years is that it's really that ice component. So we as the city, and we'll all work together on this, can decide, okay, what else do we want to do? But once the ice is in there, this place is operating. I mean, the facility can run. It's perfectly fine. It's ready to go. It just needs the ice. So we can all decide, together on what those next steps are going to be to make whatever little improvement. I think your question, like massive building improvements, really aren't necessary for it. It's really all about the ice. So that's why this was great. The county came in, offered this $2 million to get the ice for a great destination and attraction at the Nick, for Troy, for Rensselaer County. And I can't help myself, but when you pair it up with the pool and the pavilion being built there, this is really transformational for Lansingburg, Troy, and our county and region.
Thank you.
Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
I kind of wanted to echo that a little. The building itself, I've been there a few times, right next to my house. Not been abandoned like a lot of people thought. There have been people working in the building currently, so it's not like it's an abandoned building that we're coming in and renovating. Like what the deputy mayor said, the biggest reason they couldn't reopen as an ice rink was the cost of the actual ice rink aspect of it. So to come in to do little air conditioning repairs, renovating, it should be considerably less and a huge improvement for the area. So happy it's coming.
And Seamus, I just, not a golf person, I'm not a hockey person either. So this means that this will be ice only. It will no longer allow for lacrosse or indoor soccer or any of the other sports that might be.
So in the immediate, once the ice goes in, yes, it will be just the ice. Now that again, going back to all of us working together, that doesn't mean that it couldn't be a little bit more. There are options to, say, get turf floor that could go on top. Those are stuff for us all to decide in the future. But So, you know, in the immediate, no, it will no longer just be a concrete pad. It will have the ice and used for hockey.
And are our plans, also including making the building ADA compliant? Because I don't believe it is at this point.
So, most certainly, because we want to make sure every facility and every space here in Troy is ADA compliant, so they'll be part of it too. And another thing that I just want to point out that's really great, because I know a lot of folks are familiar with the Fair Park ice rink. The huge difference here is yes, although you'll have some of these leagues that will take part of it, will actually serve as a nice revenue source for the city when they rent it out. Now we have a bit more control of that. We can make sure that there is ample public skating opportunities, that there's ample youth programs so that we can get our youth in there, you know, teach them to, you know, play hockey, all these good things. So we can really open up a door to a lot of our youth that probably wouldn't frankly skate. We've already even talked about some great programs that, you know, the hockey parents will tell you that the equipment, the kids grow out of it very quick. So we've already started talking about ways that, you know, we can get some folks that quite frankly can't afford the expensive equipment, put them in it. So there's a lot of great programs that are going to go into this, a lot of great uses, and it's going to be a great asset. And we're so glad to have this tremendous partnership with the county.
And who's doing the actual building analysis? Because certainly those bathrooms are not ADA compliant and they need a lot of work. And that's going to be on us as the city to renovate them. So who's doing the site work on them?
So Siemens, CHA are part of all of that. And the bathrooms, the restrooms actually may be something that we are able to squeeze in this phase. At least kind of components like you said, aesthetically, I mean, probably a little bit longer, but just to make sure, going back to that everything's compliant. We're going to make sure that this is ready for the public to go in there to use. We anticipate it being very well received, very, you know, well attended. So we'll make sure all of that's taken care of.
Any other questions?
Yes, Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
I have received a few phone calls about people wondering how they're going to be able to utilize the ice rink because they were using it for baseball indoor practices. There hasn't been as much soccer, and the lacrosse team that was there has limited. But if you go to like MVP Arena or any other place where ice hockey's played and there's other sports, they place boards down on top of the ice. Like you can have an NHL game in the morning, then an NBA game at night. They're not melting ice; they're just putting boards down, which is something that we can look into in the future. Also, there's so many different buildings in North Central and Lansingburg that are not currently being utilized. That if someone is very interested in putting a turf field in, we could start exploring that, whether from the city or from a private owner.
Okay.
Council President Steele.
There's hope.
I just want to say, when you talk about other improvements, I guess I don't come from a hockey family, but I asked my kid when he was 6 years old, what do you want to do? He said, play hockey. So that's what we did. And we played in a Troy fire hockey team, and they practice there now using rollerblades. So it's good to bring ice back. But the thing I want to tell you is, knowing a little bit about it, ice is at a premium rate. That place will be booked. So if there's any kind of gap in any kind of funding for any improvements or any future improvements are going to be needed, you see what's happening at Fair Park. That place will be booked for tournaments. They'll be playing at the same time. They'll be playing at Fair Park. They'll be playing in the Berg also. And these people will be eating in Troy. And they'll be in hotel rooms in Troy. I'm telling you, it was a sad day when that thing closed for whatever reason. But this is another great thing. And just thank you, Rensselaer County. I couldn't believe it when I heard it and went to the press conference. We heard about the youth programs. We heard about this conference. But I really want to thank Rensselaer County because this is another great day for the city of Troy. And it's going to really mean people are going to come to Troy and get to play there from out of town and everything. And they're going to stay. Like I said, it's going to be overall. It's just going to be a great thing for Troy. Thank you for your efforts, and thank you, Rensselaer County.
Councilmember Sorrento.
I also want to echo Councilmember Casey again. So this is this partnership it's great. And, the fact that we're bringing back, amenities that we grew up on, and unfortunately, my children can't experience those. And in the winter time, especially, we're very limited. Children are very limited in any type of recreational activities that they can really do in our city. Not only that, but we don't have an ice rink anywhere in the city anymore or close by. I think maybe Albany is the closest because I was also told that Hudson Valley closed their ice rink to
Correct.
the public or altogether. I haven't been there in a couple of years. So when I heard about that, and when I was really bummed. And then when I'm hearing about this great partnership and we're, bringing back, pieces of Troy back to life that we've experienced, that I've experienced as a child, I'm so happy. I'm like a kid walking into a candy store right now.
Yeah,
just, knowing that this partnership is what's bringing this stuff back, and it's great.
It's really exciting. And again, I mean, we all know the obvious here. The most exciting part of it is, it's the county's ARPA money wholly here. So we know how precious those ARPA dollars are. We're very grateful. I think it's a sign here too, the county and the city. I don't recall ever working on this level, especially to the tune of $2 million. So a lot of credit to the mayor, the county executive for getting together here, making this happen. I think we're all very excited. A lot of revenue potential, a lot of community engagement potential. So we're all very excited about it. Thank you.
While we're doing thank yous, I think we really need to thank President Biden for the ARPA money to start with, and our federal representatives who made it possible. ARPA has certainly been an important investment for Troy, and we're thankful to the county, but we wouldn't have it if it weren't for the top. So let's remember that.
My last thank you would be to all the taxpayers. So thank you. Thank you.
I agree.
Bipartisan. You can bipartisan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 30 is adopted unanimously. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution implementing a pitch-in program. Residents and businesses to adopt an alleyway, gateway, neighborhood area, or waterfront site. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Brosnan, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Brosnan? Motion made by McLaren. Thank you for your bipartisanship. And Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution?
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
My question about this would be if suppose there were an alleyway that residents cleaned up, gathered up a lot of trashed materials, would they then be charged for a bulk pickup, or would the city take care of that aspect of it as part of the program?
Great question. To take a step back, as everyone knows, we've been really making an incredible conscious effort cleaning our city, scraping curb to curb, etc. Our streets, our sanitation, quality of life crews have done just an incredible, exceptional job. What pains me is to see a street clean, an alleyway clean, and literally like 2-3 days later see not a ton, but litter. Listen, we're committed here to ensure that our city stays clean. In order to do that, what this does, the pitch-in program, it opens it up to new partnerships, whether it be an alleyway, whether it be a street, whether it be the pier, which is atrocious down on the South Troy waterfront, an incredible jewel. But when I drove down there, sent a crew down there immediately. It was absolutely just deplorable. Fish heads, blood, garbage all over. I mean, it was really atrocious. Saying that, I happened to see a nonprofit down there and they said, you know what? We will work with you, Carmilla, to create a partnership to keep the pier clean. So in answer to your question, absolutely, we'll pick up brush, etc. But what this will do, there's a number of organizations like neighborhood groups, the Little League, Osgood, the Lansingburg Neighborhood Association. There's groups on streets, alleyways, they're just going out there cleaning. What this will actually do when it's fully implemented, it won't take a lot of work, is actually formalize more of a pitch-in program where we'll have an interactive map. Folks will fill out a form, essentially, you know, say Bill Keel wants to adopt Fifth Ave and what are you on 114th, 15th, et cetera.
Just take all of them.
Okay, the whole bird. Okay, Bill's going to take the whole bird, but what Bill will do, he'll fill out a form and he'll essentially be the eyes and ears on that street, not necessarily he working alone. He and his neighbors will adopt that. And what we will do from the administration part is our street sanitation quality of life crew will work with those associations, with those neighborhoods, with that particular one resident who just wants to take care of the boulevard and, you know, put flowers or whatever along that boulevard or mow a boulevard. We have a number of residents in Lansingburg who just take it upon themselves to mow. So this will more formalize it. Also, it will create that partnership where, you know, we'll be able to have crews come pick up the bags, whatever. So this is an all-out front, you know, to essentially say, hey, we're leading by example here. The administration's out there. We're working day in and day out to keep our streets, our alleyways clean, our pier clean, our launches clean, but we need help. We can't do it alone. Saying that, we've set the example now. We've worked 5 months. Now we're asking neighborhood associations, residents, and others to pitch in. So, you know, it's going to be a great program, and hopefully the council will pass this, but we'll implement it immediately. We'll get information out there, obviously, but this will set, you know, the first step toward that.
So if an organization or an individual wants to adopt a particular part, who do they go to? They have to sign up. They have to be registered. What's the plan?
Yep. Just fill out a form. We'll have that online. Obviously, you know, we haven't gone there yet. This will be a program that we'll implement. We'll get, you know, all the information out there. We'll tell folks, but you know, the groups that are already formed, you know, like say the Prospect Park Conservancy, our friends of Prospect Park, they're already formed, but we'll put, for instance, on this interactive map, the Friends of Prospect Park, Rear Park, we have a conservancy there. We'll put them on the map, but essentially fill out a form. This is a partnership. It's, you know, you don't have to be a 501c3, not the major. You could be a resident, you could be a group, you could be a 501c3, you could be a business. It's essentially an adopt a program, much like you see along some state routes, things like that. But you know, that those folks will be essentially our captains, our eyes and ears. You know, say someone is disabled, you know, they want to say adopt an alleyway. Well, guess what? If they could join some of their neighbors and maybe just be the eyes and ears. I had an elderly gentleman down in North Central. He's not really capable of picking up garbage and things, but you know, he said, Carmilla, I'd be happy to be the eyes and ears on this block. You know, so if you can't physically do it, you can still be part of the program. So it's essentially to get that momentum rolling, make it contagious, and have it flow throughout the city. And Bill will sign you up for all of Lansing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burr.
I get, what are the formal details of this program?
We'll get it back to you. Yeah, this just, you know, authorizes us to start a program. That's all. We could start a program without you, but I felt we should work together to you know.
Oh,
for the program.
it sounds like it sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I'm just unclear as to what is there a cost
No,
to this?
no cost. No, this is totally voluntary. No cost.
No,
It's- yeah.
I would understand the volunteer service would be paid, but
Yeah.
the city's going to be paying for bulk pickup for these entities? Is that?
Well, if folks do clean up an alley, we'll pick it up. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's much like our,
Is there going to be any
People-
cost in setting up the interactive map or the online?
no,
form?
that'll be done in-house. Yep.
Councilmember Casey?
I just think that this is it's great to see this. It's just like another, step with the whole cleanup and Detroit thing going on. And, you know, when you see this pitch and you know, it reminds me of Earth working, in both Osgood and Stowe Avenue. So I've met people that don't always clean up on Earth Day. They do it all year long. And in Osgood and Stowe, there's a gentleman that goes out all the time, you know, and cleans up. And I think if they register and then they have a direct communication with the city to say, hey, I cleaned up this area, it's sitting here, and they'll be able to contact. I just think all these neighborhood groups that already do these things are gonna be very thankful for this type of program. And it just goes about people, you know, having a better attitude about keeping Troy clean. And I would like to mention one of the residents through in Stowe Avenue. They're saying they'd like to adopt probably a program that's already out there, so to get these into the schools, to teach these kids when they're young, not throwing litter all over the place, because there's one gentleman out there who picks up litter almost every day. I mean, he used to be an educator, so I wish they taught these children and got to them early. So maybe that's another step in the future.
And, you know, on that note, you know, I have visited so many schools and, you know, the kids, they get it. It's, you know, it's amazing how many kids, you know, I'll say, so, you know, what's a good message, you know, for me, or a good message for your parents? Don't litter. But saying that honestly, this all goes toward us trying to build pride in our neighborhoods, and it's just another step in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution of the City of Troy Council recognizing recognizing Pride Month. Councilmember Soriento, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, seconded by Councilmember. Discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
6-1. On resolution 92. Resolution 93. Resolution to declare June 2nd, 2024 as Cancer Survivors Day in the city of Troy. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Brosnan, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Soriento, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Vera and Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 94, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into contract to receive American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds from Rensselaer County for the expenses of renovation and improvement of the Knickerbocker Recreational Facility. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento, seconded by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted unanimously. Resolution 95, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contractual addendum with the Troy Industrial Development Agency, Troy IDA, to assist the Lansingburg building assessment. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Brosnan, Councilmember Soriento, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
You're a member of the IDA. and you're also a sponsor, so you can't,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're
You
also
can't either.
listed
Well,
as
I'm
a
on there.
sponsor.
You are,
I'll make a motion.
thank you,
I would never not move it forward.
thank you. That's very generous. Do I have a second? A second?
Second. I don't.
Yes, you can second. Discussion on the resolution?
Councilor Easton. I just want to say briefly that I worked down the Berg for a long time, and this was always a section of the city, you know, not too many years ago, several restaurants. And there was even a jewelry store down there. It was great. So I'm glad to see that we're going to be looking into bringing this area back, especially with the new firehouse at 118th Street. It's really going to make a difference.
Thank you. Councilmember Brosnan and I are both members of the IDA, so we'll be recusing ourselves. But all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And two recusal. 5-2. Resolution 96, resolution determining the proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel, discussion on the resolution.
Council President?
Councilmember McLaren.
So in my years on the zoning board, I was the seeker person. Meaning that I always made the seeker declarations, but that I also looked over all of the environmental applications, all the seeker. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable determining that this is a type 2 action, because I can't say that it's not going to cause significant environmental impact when we haven't seen plans, we haven't, there hasn't been any public input. So I'm not saying that I won't ever be comfortable. I'm saying right now I'm not comfortable. I'm wondering if someone could speak to how are we making this determination now?
I apologize, Rick isn't here. Our understanding from him is that we have to have the negative seeker declaration in place for the bond resolution that's coming. We have to do the seeker first, and
I understand that, but
because it's just the bond for the design phase, that it has no seeker implication.
Councilmember Vera.
So understood. And if the seeker was relating to the bond resolution, I don't think we'd have a problem with that. But what's written here is the construction, the project itself, and then the first bullet there references 617.5C5, which is it's a list of type 2 actions that DEC puts out, and it specifically relates to the reconstruction of a roadway without the addition of lanes. So you're not referencing a type 2 action for the bonding. You're referencing a type 2 action for the construction, and further, that type 2 action wouldn't apply to this project because you're realigning an intersection, which DOT does not allow a project like that to be considered a type 2. So if this is only about the bonding, it would have to be rewritten. If it is in fact about the project, it's not a type 2 action. It would, at a minimum, be unlisted.
The bonding is for a portion of the design of the overall project, is my understanding. So Rick put together these 3 resolutions. Other than to tell you that in order to get the bond through, he drafted the seeker resolution because it had to be in place. My understanding is this is a much larger project than the $500,000 bond or any of the other pieces of the project that have come forward before, and that the overall project in general has been approved as it moves through, but that this seeker evaluation is only for this particular portion that's in front of you today, which Randy can speak in terms of his two resolutions, which are next. I don't know if you need to resolve this before you get to his, or if he can add.
Yeah,
Well, at bare minimum, unless it's rewritten, this is asking us to make a determination on the project. It's not specifically saying that it's just for the bond.
and it goes on to describe the project in great detail, cost of reconstruction, widening or resurfacing of highways, roads, streets, parkways, or parking areas, whether or not including sidewalks, curbs, gutters, drainage. This is written for the construction, not for the bond.
And I believe it's the same language that was in the bond resolution that was done years ago for the 700,000 bond that got this project started.
That might have been incorrect as well. I don't know. I wasn't on the council at the time.
One possibility would be for us to table tonight and we could, I'm sorry, we would table both items and we could take it up again at our June meeting if we were to call a
Is there,
special finance meeting before the June meeting.
Council President?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that we can amend this on the floor this evening so that we can move forward?
Council President Steele, I just want to ask, did anybody, we all know Rick, more than I, did anybody reach out to him to the meeting with maybe some change? He was here in the building. I saw him today. I spoke.
I didn't.
Anybody
until 2 hours.
Well, and we had no way of knowing that Rick was the one who had drafted it or whether Rick would be here tonight. So that would not have been very possible. Yeah.
Did you reach out to anybody with your concerns?
I didn't have the concerns until I was able to get this far in the agenda this
Fair
afternoon.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, bonding for this project is important. I'm sure you're.
Yes, we are aware of that. And the way I see out of this is to table both items for this evening. We'll call a special finance meeting prior to our June meeting. I believe we have some committee meetings that night anyway. And we could hopefully by then have the resolution resolved. And then it could be placed on the agenda for the June meeting. So I would entertain a motion on the table.
Council President Steele, I just want to say, it seems like this has already been the language used. And I mean, Rick has been with the city for a long time. He's certainly done a good job, and I would think he's done his due diligence here. Unless you're seeing that Rick didn't, but I would think he did.
With all due respect,
Councilmember McLaren.
Casey, I'm not suggesting that he did something wrong here. I simply stated that I'm not comfortable because I'm familiar with seeker. And I'm not comfortable listing this as a type 2 action when not only is it really not a type 2 action, but that it's asking to determine that for the whole project and not just for the bond. So the suggestion is that maybe the language of the resolution needs to be changed, not, I am in no way trying to hold up a project. I just want to make sure that we're not okaying something that isn't okay.
I guess if there was something that needed to be amended legally, I guess it would be amended at some point. I just don't know.
Well, I don't think we'd be holding it up. We could act on it at the June meeting. I don't believe that impacts the bonding. It's only 2 weeks away. It shouldn't matter. So I would entertain a motion to table resolution
I think we already told
96.
I'd like to make a motion for just a brief recess, read over and see if there's an amendment we can make on the floor instead of calling it a special
I
meeting.
believe we were advised by council.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
We're in recess.
That works. Good drink.
Back in session, we are considering resolution 96. What is the wish of the council?
Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
On review of the resolution, it wasn't just written by one party, it was written by the Corporation Council and the Bond Council. So I'm gonna trust the experts to be experts and try to move this to a vote tonight. I will make the motion.
Councilmember Casey?
Yeah, I was trusting Rick, but I mean, I'm glad we took a break, because when I found out that it was actually written with the bond council, I'm even more confident that it probably is correct.
Well, that's new information that we were not privy to.
Beauty of taking a break, looking at all the facts.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't part of your caucus. You got special treatment.
I don't know.
The office is open all the time. Every day.
You need to laugh.
It's not appropriate.
Have a laugh.
No.
Enjoy life.
That wasn't funny.
Enjoy life. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. No.
No.
4-3. Resolution is adopted. I don't know if it requires. No, that's gonna bring some. Resolution 97. A resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance, 100% of the federal aid and state Martelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution.
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
Does this resolution require the seeker determination?
No, I don't believe it does. This is a resolution simply to accept the contract with the Department of Transportation for the funding provided to the Congress and Perry Street Corridor project.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Randy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 7-0. Resolution 98, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $500,000 serial bonds to finance the reconstruction of streets in the city, including Congress Street and Ferry Street corridor improvements. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion on the resolution.
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
This bond resolution does require the seeker determination. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the resolution 96. I believe, yes.
I said, seeing as it's passed, I don't see why we can't act on it.
Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 7-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Soriento, seconded by
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned and We'll go right into the special. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Keel,
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Here.
Councilmember Span McLaren,
Present.
Councilmember Vera, Councilmember Soriento.
Here.
Councilmember Casey.
Here.
Council President Steele.
Present.
All are present.
Thank you. Our agenda includes a few ordinances and resolutions, all of which have gone through the Finance Committee. At this point, I would recognize anyone who wishes to speak on any item on the agenda. Anyone wish to speak? Anyone at all? No one is speaking, so we'll move right along. Ordinances.
Ordinance 22, ordinance authorizing a waiver of the building permit fees for the Troy Housing Authority's Bundle 2 project. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Second.
Councilmember Keel seconds. Discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 recusal. Ordinance 25.
Ordinance 25, ordinance authorizing settlement of claim to White Lines and all petitioners versus City of Troy and all respondents to Supreme Court. Rensselaer County Index Number EF 2023-274507. Councilmember Soriento, Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Casey. Discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Seven ayes, 0 no's. Ordinance 25 passes.
Ordinance 28.
Ordinance 28, ordinance authorizing settlement of claims filed in Rensselaer County Supreme Court against the City of Troy by Troy Sled Products Company Incorporated, index number EF 2022-272195. Adams Street Properties LLC, index number EF 2022-272194. And American Rock Salt Company LLC, index number EF 2022-272214 for property taken by eminent domain. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 no's. Resolution, ordinance 28 passes.
Ordinance 29.
Ordinance 29, ordinance amending chapter 216 of the Troy City Code. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Brosnan, Council President Steele at the request of the administration.
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan, discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 no's. Ordinance 29 passes.
Resolution 88.
Resolution 88, resolution of the City Council of the City of Troy authorizing the execution of a payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement by and among the City of Troy, Troy Bundle Housing Development Fund Corporation, and Troy Portfolio Preservation B2 LLC for Troy Portfolio Preservation Bundle 2. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, was that?
Yeah.
I'll second.
second by Councilmember McLaren.
Wow.
Discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
And I must recuse, so
Yeah, I
that,
also-
I'm sorry,
yeah, I'll recuse.
you are recusing as well?
That's not, no, that's.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you.
I misread which one we're on, but I already said I recused, so it's fine.
So you're recusing?
Yep.
Okay, so that's 5-2.
5 ayes, 2 recusals, resolution 88 passes.
Resolution 91,
Resolution 91, resolution implementing a pitching program. Residents and businesses to adopt an alleyway, gateway, neighborhood area, or waterfront site. Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Brazen at the request of the administration.
we have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember Keel,
Wait.
No, I can't
do it, sorry.
I'll make a motion.
I will second the motion.
Councilmember McLaren, and Councilmember Vera. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 91 passes.
Resolution 96.
Resolution 96, resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Councilmember Casey, Council President Seal, at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Soriento. Discussion.
Council President,
Councilmember Vera.
I will reiterate my concerns from the finance meeting that it appears as though we are making the secret determination on the project and not the bonding. And I'd like some clarification, but it seems like Rick is not available.
Any other comments?
Councilmember Steele.
Council,
President.
Councilmember McLaren.
I would also like to echo what Councilman Vera said, and just restate my own discomfort with approving a type 2 act when the project doesn't seem to fall under the scope of type 2.
Okay, thank you.
Council President,
Councilmember Soriento.
I just want to state that I'm trusting the expertise of our bonding council. And so I am voting on this.
Thank you. We were told that this was prepared by Rick. Based on that, I'm going to agree with my colleagues. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
No.
4 ayes, 3 noes, resolution 96 passes.
Resolution 97.
Resolution 97. Resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state Marshall program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Councilmember Casey, Council President Steele, at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 97 passes.
Resolution 98.
Resolution 98, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of 500,000 serial bonds to finance the reconstruction of streets in the city, including Congress Street and Ferry Street corridor improvements. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes, resolutions 98 passes.
At this point, we have the opportunity for anyone to speak on any item, not necessarily on the agenda. So please feel free to come forward and speak on any subject matter. Does anyone wish to speak during the public forum? Anyone wishing to speak, this is your chance. Seeing and hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilmember Soriento, seconded by Councilmember Brosnan. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.